spring scouting for deer. It doesn't sound logical, but stick with me for a minute and I'll show you why it works out to your advantage for the fall hunting season. We're currently in the Manistee National Forest. I personally like to hunt swamp edges a lot, and I'll show you why. We've got a hard transition over here on the left of me. We've got hardwood oak ridges. To the right of me here, we've got a swamp. And right now I'm on the main deer trail that runs between the hardwood ridges and the swamp edge. And I can already see some rubs up here. This is a place I haven't been to before. This is brand new to me, but I'll show you why I like these edges. Let me get right up here to where I see these rubs, and I'll show you what we got. It's a beautiful country too. Another thing I like about it is that down in the swamp side it's usually wet. It's wet and you can see where the deer move in and out of the swamp. But let me show you this right here. If you look down here, you see we've got a small rub that was made this past fall on this little tree right here. You can see it there, I hope. Not much to look at, but it tells you that there was a buck coming through here. Right here on the ground, big old pile of deer poop, so you know that this place is active. And right up here, we've got another pretty good sized rub right here on this tree. This is from last fall too. Now it's hard to tell, was it a small buck that made it or a large buck? Large bucks will rub on small trees. Little bucks don't rub on really huge trees because their horns won't fit around them. But at any rate, it gives you a good idea of what's in an area, what you might see. I'm following along a trail right here, and there's deer droppings everywhere. Lots of little rubs here and there. Well, I was just following a trail in from just a few minutes ago, and this little area, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's a deer trail that cuts off right through there. There's another one that comes up through this way. I mean, this area is tore up with deer trails, and that's what you want to look for when you're out here. You want to look for good worn out trails, usually on top of the ridges or below the ridges. Now, this is jack pines, white pines with mixed hardwoods in here. And I could see where they've been scraping around the oak trees this winter, coming back through looking for stuff to feed on. So that lets you know that there are deer in the area. Of course, you can't tell what caliber bucks, but I don't just hunt horns, I hunt deer. So this is all good sign for me. And I just walked up on another really nice rub here. You can tell by looking at it that this tree has been hit several years in a row. It was hit this past fall, and it looks like maybe a couple years in the past as well. So it's a historical rub with a fresh rub on it. So that tells you that this area sees repeated patterns of bucks, which is a good thing. And with the amount of deer sign I'm seeing, this isn't just bucks. There's just a lot of deer here, period. So this will be someplace I'll be coming back to this fall. Walking along here, I found some bear marks in the sand. You can see where it clawed at something. Its tracks aren't real prevalent. When I find one, I'll show you guys. But if you look right down here, you can see those scratches on the ground there. The only thing that could have made that is a bear. That's not turkey. You can tell by the distance between the claw marks there. I wouldn't say that's a giant bear, but that's definitely evidence that there's a bear in the area here, which isn't uncommon up here in the Manistee National Forest. We see bear all the time. You know, you hear guys talking about transitions, soft transitions, hard transitions, and that the deer usually follow those transition points. Well, here's a pretty good example. On the left here, you'll see we've got oak ridges and fairly open woods here. And to the right of me, there's another little swamp and thick brushy area back here behind me. But if you look right down here, you'll see where the brushy stuff stops and it transitions into the open woods. That's a hard line, and deer will walk along this edge because they want to take the path of least resistance. And this is a good example of an edge. Looking at rubs like the one that's on this bent over pine tree. Now the deer didn't do that. The snow did that this winter. We had some late heavy snow. But one way to tell how big the buck is this tree. You see these rubs stop right about here. Now if I were to pull this tree up, that's waist high. A little bit higher than waist high maybe for those rubs. That's a good indication that that's a decent sized buck. The higher up the tree the rubs are, it lets you know a couple things. It lets you know basically the height of the deer and maybe the height of his rack. So that's a good indication when you're looking at rubs to determine if it's a mature deer or a young deer, is just by how high up the rubs go on the trees. And another thing to look for is if there's trees directly around a tree that has rubs on it, you can tell the trees behind it could be nicked or scratched a little bit, and that'll give you an indication of how big the antlers were on a buck too. So those are just a few things to keep an eye out for and to make a mental note of for an area. I've just went up the ridge just a teeny little bit from that last rub I was showing you, and I found a scrape. I don't know if you can see this or not, but right here under this pine tree, there's a scrape on the ground. You can see it right there. And if you look up on the tree here, you can see that the branch is pretty much missing right here, and it's broken over. This was done last fall. This is a scrape. The bucks do these. Does will come into them and paw around a bit. And there's no guarantee just because you find a scrape that there's going to be a buck in the area where you find it. It just lets you know that he's been through here. And as I'm looking, talking about this scrape, let me check this out. Now this is a really nice set of rubs right here next to this scrape. That's a smaller tree, but if you look at this guy over here, this lets you know that this was a mature, nice buck. Look at this right here. I hope you guys can see that. That's a nice sized tree, and look how high up. That's easily waist high, a little bit higher than waist high. That's a nice rub that was made last fall. And I would wager that the buck that made these two rubs and the one back down the trail a little bit is the same buck that was working this scrape. And another thing about this scrape, if you look at the branch, where the branch is busted off right here, this is shoulder height to me, and I'm 6 foot tall. So that lets you know that buck's antlers were getting up here and breaking this stuff all up. So there's a little bit more information. Follow the rub lines, see where they're going. Follow them both directions if you want and you've got time. and it'll give you a lot of helpful information for the coming up fall's hunt. Well, I dropped down off of the ridge I was on, which was up there where I found the scrape and all those rubs. And sure enough, when I dropped down to the bottom of the ridge, you can see there's a clear cut this way. The ridge is up this way. The whole bottom edge of this ridge coming down through here is just tore up with rubs and deer tracks and piles of deer poop everywhere. So that lets me know this is a very good potential area. There's a lot of buck sign everywhere I've looked so far, and a lot of deer sign, period. There's a lot of sign in here. This is gonna go on my hunting app as a potential spot. I mean, we're probably a mile back, and don't get me wrong, you don't have to go that far. A lot of times you can hunt right up next to the roads, especially if you're older and have a hard time getting this far back and things, and you'll do just fine. You know, a lot of guys want to get back here this far away. They think you have to, but you really don't. Those deer are going to go where the people aren't, and a lot of times that's right up by the roads. I've used that technique a lot in the past. I've done very well with it, and I've done well with getting out and trying to get away far back in where I don't think people are going to go. But it seems like I'm always surprised when I get out where I don't think no one will go. There'll be 4 or 5 stands there. Sometimes I hunt up by the road and there's no one around. I'm still here along the edge of this clear cut, which is all out this way in front of me. I wanted to show you, if you look behind me here, you see how thick this little pocket is right here? They didn't cut any of this. And it's really thick in here behind me, and it's really open out here everywhere else. These little thick spots like that off to my left here now, those are the kind of places that the deer are going to lay up during the day and bed down and stuff like that, and then they'll come out here into these clear cuts towards evening and dark to browse on the grasses and whatever else might be available in here. But you'll find these little pockets like this here and there. Don't overlook them, because deer will bed up in there. I wouldn't recommend going right straight in and boogering it all up, but find where the trails are coming in and out of that thick stuff. Play the wind to your advantage and set up just on the outside of that. And when I say play the wind to your advantage, what I'm talking about is in an area that you regularly hunt, the wind will normally blow from a certain direction. Like here, we get winds out of the west most of the time, and it can vary northwest, southwest, but you keep an eye on that. Set up some stands and play the wind to your advantage, and get on the outside of these little pockets on good runways and things like that, and you'll see deer. Even if you can't bait, this is how you do it when you can't bait, as a matter of fact. And you will see deer, and you'll have good opportunities to harvest deer. And who knows, maybe even a big old buck will come up out of there if you play the wind right and don't get in there and spook it up. Here's another example of a good scrape. If you look right here, you can see these branches are all busted up and hanging down. They're 6 foot up off of the ground. And you can see there's damage all back in here, a lot of damage there. If you look right underneath of those, there's a bare patch of earth right here under that. One or several bucks have done that. That's just another good example of buck sign that you want to look out for, that's a lot easier to see early spring than late fall. And bucks will run these same areas year after year. There's a reason why they come here. There's a reason why they scrape here. And you'll find that year after year, those same places will have evidence of bucks in them. Well, I've came across this clear cut back here that you can see behind me, but I walked up to the edge, the transition again, which is right here where it goes from clear cut back to hardwoods and jack pines. And right here, if you look right down here, you'll see a scrape. Right above that scrape, just like always, bunch of busted off branches and everything. As they're licking branches, they're called. Just another example of a scrape. And all of the stuff that I have shown you guys today with the trails, hunting next to hard edges, soft edges, the scrapes, the rubs, those are the kind of things that you want to get out here and look for in the spring. They're a little easier to see and they're fresh from last fall. Don't ignore the historical rubs, those tell a story too. And we'll do some more of this kind of thing. I do quite a bit of scouting in the spring, and then I'll scout again in the fall too. I'll take you guys on that journey with me as well. And if you guys are liking the content that I'm putting out and you want to see more of it, let me know what you think. And we'll do a whole lot more of this kind of thing in the future. All summer long, I'm going to take you on a journey through these woods and fishing and things like that. So you guys follow along with me. Until next time.